an Arab, you can be an African, you can be a European, you can be an American. It's not a race. Religion is not a race. Part of anti-Semitism was the belief that the Jews were so much hated for being Jews, but they still had a role to play in the kingdom of God. And that is to go and pave the way for the coming of the Christian Messiah. And then what happens when the Christian Messiah comes? He will kill the Jews. It's a ridiculous thing. You know, today, the majority of the people who support Israel in America are Christian Zionists. They support Israel. They pay money, more money to Israel than anybody else in the world. But they hate the Jews as well at the same time. And they pray for their own Messiah to come and kill the Jews in Jerusalem. This is what Christian Zionism is about. And Balfour was a Christian Zionist. The leaders of Britain at the turn of the 20th century were Christian Zionists. But that wasn't the whole story. There is another aspect to the story. The leaders of Western Europe could observe what was happening to the Jews in Russia, described as the pogroms, the persecution of the Jews in Russia in 1885 and earlier. And the Russian Jews and Jews in many parts of Eastern Europe started fleeing their homes and going to Western Europe. European governments didn't want them. So what's the solution? What do you do with them? Let's find them another home somewhere else. So instead of allowing them to come to Western Europe, you send them somewhere else. But why Palestine? Of all the world, why Palestine? To me, it's a beautiful country, but it's not really the most beautiful country in the world. I love it, but I'm sure that other people love their own countries. But why Palestine? What's so special about Palestine? First, because the Messiah will come there, they believe. And he'll never come anyway, I assure you. But more importantly, if you look at the map, and you've seen some maps earlier, Palestine is so centrally positioned. And as the Ottoman Empire was being dismantled, if you wanted to make sure that that empire is never ever reassembled, then you choose the heart, the very center, establish a military outpost, a spearhead of colonialism. It's a colonial idea, colonial mentality. Europe always did this. You want to colonize a country and you want your colonization to continue for a very long time. So what do? You use a community as a functional group. You send them there. They send the Protestants to Northern Ireland, and they continue to have a problem with Northern Ireland. Earlier, they sent groups to Australia, to New Zealand, to South Africa, to what was Rhodesia before, to various colonies around the world. Functional groups. Who do you send to Palestine? Well, the Zionists want a homeland, give them a homeland. And that's why the Zionists could never have done it on their own. Actually, Theodor Herzl tells us in his memoirs some very interesting stories. He went to see the king of the king of Italy. He went to see the king of Italy, and the king of Italy saw that he had a beard up to his navel. Very long beard. He thought he was a rabbi. And he said to him, "Your Eminence, the rabbi." He said, No, I'm not a rabbi. I don't even believe in God." He was a kafir. What did he go to see the king of Italy for? He went to beg him to give him Libya, which was at the time an Italian colony. Give us Libya. We want to make a homeland for our people. So Theodor Herzl, who wasn't religious, did not care about Palestine or Jerusalem. It didn't really matter. Actually, in some of his discussions with fellow Zionists, he suggested to them that Argentina was probably the best place to establish a Jewish homeland. Because there had already been a colony in Argentina, it's doing well. Argentina had lots of cows, lots of vegetation, a huge land, far away from all the trouble, far away from all these troublesome Muslims who will not be happy with us if we take Palestine. But that didn't work. He even went to see the British and asked them for Cyprus. Give us Cyprus, it's just a small island. Just give us. And the British are always behind all troubles. They said to him, oh, no, we cannot give you Cyprus. Why not? Because Cyprus has already a population. It has Greeks and it has Turks. He said, well, the Greeks, we will send them back home, and the Turks will handle them. And the British wouldn't give him Cyprus. And then there was another theory about Mozambique, about Uganda. He would have settled for anywhere in the world. But the British insisted, no, Palestine is your homeland. It was the British who wanted to give the Jews, the Zionists, they wanted to give them Palestine. First, because of their Christian Zionist ideology that I told you about. Second, because of the position of Palestine in the heart of the Muslim Ummah. And thirdly, because if you want to try and convince the Jews to leave Europe and go somewhere else, it has to be really very convincing. What is so convincing about Argentina? The cows? Not very convincing. About Cyprus, that it's an island? So what? About Libya? Not very interesting. But Palestine, oh, Jerusalem, and the Jews have always prayed, have always appealed to God in their prayer to send them back to Jerusalem, meaning bring the Messiah to take us back to Jerusalem. Because this is what is stated in the Talmud. Religious Jews, and I have many friends of religious Jews, they are really very good, pious, anti-Zionist and anti-Israel. And these are the true Jews, not the bastard ones that I spoke about earlier. And they say that in the Talmud, it is clearly stated that God had taken 3 covenants from the Israelites. And this was written after the Exodus from Palestine, which happened in the year 135 AD. The first is that the Jews should never return to Palestine until the Messiah comes. If they want to go, they can go for a visit, but not to settle down. Second, that they should never engage the Gentiles, the Goyim or the non-Jews in a war, because they lost so many in fighting the Romans. So the priority was self-preservation. They wanted to keep themselves alive. Third, that in your salat, when you pray, you don't press God to bring you the Messiah before the appointed time. It means that the Messiah will have a time. He will come and God will bring him. So don't ask for him too early. And they lived happily everywhere, wherever they were. There were Jews in Yemen, there were Jews in Iraq, Jews in Morocco, Jews in Europe. And whenever the Jews were persecuted in Europe, where did they go to? To the Muslim lands. Because in Islam, we take care of them, we respect them, they are Ahlul Dhimma, they have rights. And this is what happened when Spain was lost from the Muslims. Not only the Muslims were kicked out, also the Jews were kicked out. Where did they go to? They went to the Turkish Empire and to Morocco. So we never really had a problem with the Jews before. And that's why this problem in Palestine is not between the Muslims and the Jews. It would be wrong to believe this. You would be contradicting the facts of history. Since Khaybar until the beginning of the Zionist project 100 years ago, nearly 100 years ago, the Jews lived happily